Caitlin Clark is a budding celebrity who changed the WNBA's terrain during. She's had enough of her freshman season.
2 years old, the same as her jersey, but those heels were right at the logo.
The breakout star who brought unheard-of focus on the league has endured constant physical torture, and startling charges from Dirty continue to the court as the object of unfounded allegations of racism. Her first season's voyage wasn't simply about basketball, it turned into a battleground. Now that you've received, Clark was eliminated in the WNBA playoffs, has revealed something shocking that will probably have an impact on the sports world with each shot pass in the years to come, and Caitlin Clark controlled her dribbling rookie season records, reviving her group and demonstrating that she is among the most captivating players who have ever entered the WNBA. But in spite of all the accolades, a darker picture is painted by experiences off the court. Image from low-quality photographs and physical opponents' mistreatment of allegations of white privilege is something Clark has been fighting. Not only the group she encountered in the playoffs, she is now retaliating, and Caitlin, she isn't hiding anything. Everything about Clark's bombshell statement reached a peak recently when Clark, after a severe and heartbreaking loss to a son from Connecticut, chose to drop a shocking revelation about the WNBA and her detractors. At a press conference, she disclosed she was annoyed by the physicality of the league and the racism allegations that the weight had been flung at her of being the golden girl of the league. In addition to the tremendous strains on and off the court had at last arrived at a breaking point. What Clark said wasn't only a critique of her behavior during her debut season, they were a direct attack on the WNBA. "I'm being bombarded outside, and nobody is taking any action," she said. Encountered physical fouls and nasty plays that should never be permitted, but the league remained silent, expressing frustration, and although her voice was audible, it wasn't. Clark also spoke out against the harsh remarks and the charges made against white advantage that came after her ascent to celebrity, dealing with bigotry and abusive harassment. During the season, Clark had been targeted not only by adversaries but also by those who asserted that her achievement was because of her race instead of her talent, the story she was using to her advantage. White privilege started to expand louder as her notoriety grew. Alyssa, one of the WNBA's well-known among those who implied were the footballers. Clark's quick ascent was less regarding her basketball prowess and other things regarding the media's fixation on encouraging a white sportsman in a Thomas's, a prominent black league. Remarks caused a flurry of uproar. This sparked a discussion on race and social media. Critics of women's basketball, the media repeated her opinions, asserting that Clark's appeal stemmed from her race, but for a lot of fans and analysts appeared to overlook this story. The reality that Clark's acting was nothing less than amazing. She had broken records, led her team to the postseason, and attracted millions of additional fans, WNBA fans, yet she was continuously chastised for circumstances beyond her control. In response to these charges, Clark, directly in her shocking declaration, "The truth that individuals are attempting to undermine my diligence and commitment simply because of my race is really disheartening," she said. "I've worked hard, earned this spot, and I won't be leaving to allow anyone to deprive me of that." As Clark's popularity increased, so did the physical play's intensity versus her. During the season, she had become into a common target for violent fouls, and it appeared that opponents were determining how much she could handle. From shoulder checks to eye pokes, Clark was frequently exposed to physical abuse that was frequently overlooked by it wasn't just about playing authorities difficult defensive anymore, it felt intimate. Among the most obvious instances came during the playoff game for the Fever, opposing the Connecticut. "I'm playing my heart out there, son. Then, I'm actually poked in the eye by someone And nothing occurs, which is annoying for Clark. This marked a sea change in the steady physicality, in addition to the absence of league protection had. I enjoy playing basketball, but I've worn her out. However, it's difficult to adore it when you feel as if nobody is watching out for you. She explained that enough is enough at some point. Despite this, her teammates let her down. Clark's exceptional personality. Performances such as a game with 29 points. It was evident during the playoffs that she was engaged in a losing conflict with her co-workers weren't always consistent, and it appeared that each time Clark pulled off a pivotal play that her teammates would falter and immediately return the momentum. Victoria Vivians, the opponent, is one of the veteran players of the Fever, had a especially poor performance, making only 2 of 10 shots and scoring in the morning. Kelsey Mitchell, measly 6 points. Another important player also had trouble in the playoffs while only scoring 9 points on. When Clark was shot 3 out of 12, he was, in essence, she is carrying the squad with her back, but her attempts were insufficient to overcome the shortfall she left behind. Teammates' subpar work, this absence of support started to appear often. During the season, it seemed as though we turned the tables whenever I made a bold move. Ball over misses a shot that is wide open or make a careless error. Clark. I said, I can't do it all by myself. The notorious Puke incident was arguably the worst instance of how Clark had been singled out. Carrington's performance during the season. Clark was briefly removed from dirty play. Blinded, but the authorities did nothing. It was both emotional and bodily. Clark's lowest point, having already suffered months of violent play from adversaries attempting to slow her down after. Both game observers and supporters were startled to see that there was no officiating in the moment that ought to have been in. One said, it was an instant flagrant foul. Commentator, it's difficult to accept that something so obvious went. For Clark, it went unnoticed as just another illustration of the league's failure to safeguard its rising stars' financial repercussions for the Clark and the WNBA are already thinking about stepping outside of the league that the WNBA is playing in. A possible financial catastrophe. Clark wasn't merely a novice. She was the motivating factor for the leagues. Bringing the Indiana Fever back to life had been mostly obsolete for years. Abruptly rose to the top of the WNBA's viewership team because of Clark's presence. The Fever caused ticket sales to soar, attracting over 15 spectators per match, 400% more than the season before. Sales of products also skyrocketed with Clark's jersey is now the best-selling item in the history of the WNBA, but with Clark possibly abandoning all of that advancement, is in danger of having a Fever without Caitlin, returning to a lower-level squad, and the league loses its most prominent player. According to an analyst, it's a catastrophe waiting to. The WNBA, which had at last began to observe a sharp increase in viewers and fan engagement, is now confronted with the harsh truth that a large portion of that achievement was founded on. When she left Clark's shoulders, the league runs the risk of losing its current momentum. Over the previous 12 months, the WNBA's response thus far has stayed largely quiet in reaction to Clark's remarks. League Commissioner Kathy Angel-Burt has not yet. While Clark weighs one thing about her possibilities is that she hasn't stopped generating headlines and finished creating history.
Boston hits her. Boston ties it.
Whether abroad or in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark is going to remain a formidable opponent. In Caitlin Clark unquestionably changed the WNBA in her first season as the spokesperson for shattering records and the league, both in attendance and on the court. But in the background of her historic season, she has suffered relentlessly, aiming at both verbally and physically from detractors, rivals, and even officials who have Obvious fouls that are now apparently disregarded. After the devastating Indiana Fever, Clark has dropped a major in the playoff loss. Shocking revelation about her future. Tackling the instances of racist bullying, and she has suffered physical abuse since day one. Clark's abilities introduced a whole generation of focus on the WNBA's promotion, attendance, sales of items, and viewership battle with yourself. Play a lot of tuning for energized fans, in merely to observe her in action. But she was not exempt from the negative aspects of. She is in the spotlight during the Caitlyn's playoff run with Fever. She is the object of brutal physical abuse. The Eye of Day Carrington is the worst poke that was not penalized by referees. In the meantime, the media story moved toward Clark's unfounded allegations, profiting from disregarding white privilege, her frustrations, and unquestionable talent. The league erupted following the Fever was taken out of the playoffs. I feel like I'm being beaten up, but Clark stated that no one is taking any action. Reporters talking about how she's continuously fouled without a whistle after months of being hit. Clark's verbal and physical. When her patience eventually ran out, she declared she was unhappy with the league's officiating and the ongoing unfounded accusations of racism. What went wrong? Clark has encountered all of these difficulties during the season, but the combination of the racial charges made by other athletes, such as Alyssa Thomas, and the absence of official backing, gotten to the point where she has always been able to cut through the cacophony, but now she's pushing back with her voice and Isle's message. She will not put up with disrespect.
No more the story from specific.
Players who contribute to Clark's success include Thomas. Is because of her race, which has contributed needless stress during a season in which Clark ought to been praised for her skills, not the color of her skin. The story of white privilege plagued Clark's ascent to fame, rise, creating a misleading impression that undermines the effort she made, turning into one of the top athletes the league has witnessed in Clark's life. This was the last straw, which is really, it's disheartening that my success has decreased to something similar to what I've been employed for. Everything I've accomplished, and I refuse to allow people deprive me of that. The physical targeting was also ineffective. The persistent rough play was never appropriately handled by the authorities. Clark was left to take hit after hit. Carrington's prodding of the eye was especially cruel, abandoning her momentarily blinded, and there was no foul called. I had the impression that I was outside on. Clark, my own, acknowledged